Scientific capsule of the types of hypotheses. Research topic for examples. School the Pro. I, Nashri Catherine Barragán Lozada, Andrea Fernanda Valenzuela Silva, Cecilia Quimbaya Collazos.
Hypothesis. These are explanations about the phenomena that being studied. These are often stated affirmation or are preposition. These are stated a provision answer to the research question.
Another quick hypothesis requires the following variables: elements that have a value that can be measured. The most used variables are independent, shows the cost that a phenomenon generates in the research topic. Example: a school desertion is the product of the parents' low economic availability to pay for education. Dependent, shows the effect or consequence that a phenomenon brings. Example: a school desertion has the long-term consequence that the formation of well-educated professionals will decrease in professional careers. Styles of variables. Univariate. It possesses only one variable. Example: a school desertion in School Antonio Baraya. Bivariate. Possesses two variables. Example: a school desertion is a product of the lack of economic resources from the family and low interest of students. Multivariate has more than three variables. Example: quitting school may cause depression, poverty, and it motivates violence. Keep in mind what was mentioned before, the types of hypotheses are investigation hypothesis, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, statistical hypothesis. Research hypothesis. These are assumptions about the proportions of the possible relationships between two or more variables. It could be descriptive about a value or a predicted data. It tries to predict a certain value or data in one or more variables that are going to be measured or observed. Example: if a school desertion continues in the School Antonio Baraya in 5 years, an educational crisis in the institution may present itself. Correlational hypothesis. It studies the relationship between two or more variables. Example: an increase in school desertion causes a decrease in professional workforce. Difference between groups hypothesis. It allows the comparison between groups in an investigation. Example: young people that finish their studies will have better job opportunities than those that didn't finish their studies. Hypothesis that establishes causality relationships. It reassures the relationship between two or more variables and the way they manifest themselves. It also brings an understanding to these relationships. Example: the economic issues of the families make some young people to drop out of school to work. Null hypothesis. Those are propositions that deny or argue against a relationship between variables. Example: young people who complete their high school studies do not always persevere to continue in higher education. Alternative hypothesis. Different possibilities or alternatives from the research hypothesis and the null hypothesis. Example: the average of students that drop out each year at Antonio Baraya School is higher than 2 students per week. Statistical hypothesis. It's a proposition or assumption about the parameters of one or even more population. They change the research hypothesis, null hypothesis, and alternative hypothesis. Example, hypothesis 1, the average of students that drop out from Antonio Varela School is higher than 2 students per group. X equal students that drop out. Hypothesis 1 equal X less than 2 quantity. Thanks for your attention.